Hey, what's up, guys? This is me, Andrew, with ADT Fans. You probably seen me on Twitter a few times. I actually have a co-host here with me today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Randy, lifelong Dolphins fan, friend of Andrew as well. So just happy to talk
Yep,
about what
yep.
happened on
We've
Sunday.
both been lifelong Dolphins fans. We've lived the misery, and hopefully, we're here for the glorious future. This is our first time doing this, so pretty much what we're going to do is recap kind of what happened, kind of what we think, and just some thoughts. So, yeah, anything to add?
No, I think that's it. Just want to kind of recap the game and talk about
Yep.
why I'm not in panic mode and
Yeah,
kind of what our
it's
thoughts are on what
a
happened.
very eventful week to start this, so we'll get right into it. So, to start it off, kind of just go through some stats. So we had obviously two quarterbacks playing. So to start, obviously Tua Tagovailoa went 11 of 20. He had 83 passing yards and one touchdown. So once again, he failed to hit 100 passing yards, which as a quarterback is not ideal. And then, of course, Fitzpatrick came in. He went 12 of 18. And so in that limited time, he almost threw as many passes as Tua. He ended up with 117 yards and one interception, of course, the last play of the game, where he could have heroically tied the game. So other than that, I mean, the rushing yards, nothing to jump about. I mean, Savon Ahmed averaged 3.6 yards per carry, but leading receiver was Devontae Parker. He had 6 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. So, your thoughts?
Yeah, let's go in reverse. Let's start with Fitzpatrick, and then we'll work our way back to Tua. So with Fitz, do you feel like at the end you saw that interception coming on the goal line there? I was sitting there and I really knew he was going to throw a pick. I did not think for 1 second that there was going to be a heroic touchdown. That's not me being pessimistic. It was perfect Fitz, right? It's Fitz coming in, completing passes, moving the offense, and then you know he's gonna at the very end just throw that interception and kind of throw away the game. I saw that coming. When it happened, I wasn't even
Yeah,
surprised.
yeah. I mean, me and you talked about this too. Well, obviously, not to sound negative at all in any way, but what would have happened if we won that game going forward? Like the amount of media. I mean, everyone was already so on the fence about that decision to start Tua, and it would have blew up in our face. So
That was a weird one. I'm gonna say like at first I definitely thought it was due to injury. That's just it's a weird decision, and it's something Flores would do, right? He'd do anything
yeah,
to win. I mean,
yep.
and that's what you kind of have to look at it as. I see the benching as something that happened as an in the moment decision to help win that game in that moment. I don't actually think it means anything about Tua. I don't think it means he's not the future. I don't think it means he was anything other than just not going to win us that game. And so
All right.
maybe
Yep.
Flo thought, hey, we put him in, and I don't know. I don't like it. If anyone needed to know
Very
that, I do not
off-putting.
like it.
Very off-putting. So I'll ask you just to start. So what went wrong with Tua? Like what happened?
Everyone's gonna want to blame one thing, and I think that's gonna be the wrong thing to do. I don't think it was one thing. I think you had three terrible things happening at one time. I think you had receivers that can't create separation, and that's not
At
a
all?
problem. That's not a problem that's gonna get fixed now. That's not a problem that's gonna get fixed next week or the week after. That's a next year problem.
Mm-hmm.
So no separation from the receivers means Tua has to hold the ball longer.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line just did not play. I mean, they're not a great offensive line, but they're not a horrible
And real
offensive
quick,
line.
to
And
pause
yeah,
you
go
on
ahead.
that, I don't know if you saw today, Jesse Davis was put on the COVID list, so he will not be playing this week and probably not next week. So just get that
I'm
out.
I'm kind of not going to think that's the worst thing. I didn't hear that news, and now
As long as
knowing that, I
Kinley's
don't think that's
healthy,
terrible.
as long as Kinley's healthy, I'm okay with that. Kind of, I know the three rookies on the O line's tough, but yeah, just putting that out there. Jesse Davis, COVID reserve list. But yeah, I mean, my take on it at least is, Devontae Parker made his living last year with those contested catches that Fitzpatrick threw him, and Tua is not the quarterback that's going to see that and say, "Oh, let me throw that ball." He
Tua's
won.
taking care of the ball. Fitz doesn't care. Fitz will throw three interceptions in a game. I don't think that's the type of quarterback that Tua is. And so when you have an offensive line that isn't holding blocks, you have receivers that aren't creating separation, and a rookie that is still in his third or fourth game, he's behind the other rookies because he hasn't played that much. So you get those three things together, and of course your offense is gonna stop. It sucks that it had to happen against Denver, but that's
So is this a bottom five supporting cast in the NFL as far as running backs, tight ends, receivers? Just your opinion. Is this bottom five?
bottom five. I don't know. I don't know about bottom five, but maybe close. And the fact that Tua has won games with this cast says something about him. I think that, and Fitz too. I think that's two great quarterbacks already. I already think Tua's doing an awesome job. I know that he had a bad game yesterday, but look at what's around him. This was never a 2-year rebuild. This wasn't going to be fixed this year. This was a let's see what we can start working towards for 2021. And with the 9 draft picks or whatever we have, maybe then we'll draft. We need a running back. We need probably more O-line help and definitely receivers. And there's plenty of them coming out in the draft. So,
yep, hopefully we get a good looking draft next year. I just want to get this quote out today. Brian Flores press conference, not after the game, the one that was on before practice today or whenever it was today. He said on Tua Tagovailoa, quote, "He's a talented player. He's a young player. He's a developing player. We have a lot of confidence in him. That's why he's the starter. He's got my full support. He's got the support of the coaching staff and the locker room." My thoughts on that is Flores' press conference even after the game was very direct and very forward. So that is something you can appreciate as a coach. He didn't try and hide anything. He went full out there and said we needed to change pace, and that's why we went with that. But I think it's just great to show. Hopefully Flores isn't just speaking for himself and he's actually speaking for the team as a whole.
No, I think Tua is really likable. I think he's a likable guy, and I think the media, the fans, and the players all feel the same way. Be honest, did that game put any doubt or ill will in your head that Tua wouldn't be the guy moving forward at all? It didn't for me.
No. I think it's more of just kind of the frustration. It's like I know he's better than what he's been doing. So it's kind of that, like, I just want to see him sling it. And it's just, and I know it's his 4th game as a rookie. I'm not expecting anything crazy. Honestly, I'm totally fine with how he was playing. I just kind of want to shut up the media. So I know that's a very bad thing, but that's why I would go.
It's hard to listen to that. Yeah, it's so hard to listen to the media. But if you look at it, I think Tua has a few things that really can't be coached that I wouldn't trade for anything. His accuracy, his leadership, his anticipation. We look around at quarterbacks like Josh Allen, who's making it work with subpar accuracy, and a bunch of quarterbacks around the league that can't make the type of timing throws that Tua can make. As soon as Tua gets a cast, we've seen what he can do. We saw him dominate in the SEC, not just play in the SEC and win. He was untapped. I mean, he probably could have had even more touchdowns than he did, but similar to Trevor Lawrence, they didn't let him play full games just because they were up by 60 points every game. So He can do it. He can do it. He's just going to need the cast, and whatever they do this year, if they make the playoffs, that would be incredible. That'd be Brian Flores Coach of the Year right there, because they were not supposed to. Prior to the season, people were predicting they were a 7-win team.
I agree about everything you said. And then the last thing I'll comment on that is backing off of what you said is his experience in college and how he was in college. Man, it would have been great, as what happened. It would have just been so great to see him finish that game. And you were only down 10 points. It wasn't a blowout. I just would have liked to see him face adversity for the first time, and maybe he does his thing. I mean, there's no way to tell. I mean, you just won't ever know. So
maybe, and you know what? I would have liked to see him fail. I mean, I would have liked to see him fall off of his bike. You got a kid right now on a training wheels. Don't say, hey, get off the bike and, we'll do it. Let him stay on the bike. I'd like to see him fall off, and let's see how he responds to it. I have no problem with Tua failing a little bit early. Who doesn't? You can't tell me that Justin Herbert didn't look like a rookie last week against the Miami Dolphins. You can't say that Joe Burrow, prior to his injury yesterday, didn't also look like a rookie. They have moments. That's it. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So next thing I want to ask you. Xavier Howard. Is he the best player on the Miami Dolphins?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you think so? I don't think that.
I couldn't pick anyone else over him at this point, no.
I mean, Ogba's making a really good case, but X the interesting thing with X and Byron Jones that I wanted to bring up is they're two really different players that do two things that are really, really important. So if you notice, we didn't hear Byron Jones' name called once the entire game, not once, nothing about Byron Jones. And that's because he's locking his guy down like a blanket. And I don't think X locks his guy down like a blanket, but that's okay because he's a turnover machine and he's a ball hawk. He's got as good of hands as most wide receivers do. So you've got two separate cornerbacks with two separate abilities and capabilities, and I think that they need to keep them together. I mean, they're under contract. We need to keep them. I hate when they trade talk about Xavier Howard.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed about Xavier Howard that is so unique is it's almost like sometimes when he wants to make a play, he will let his guy get a step on him. And this just might just be me observing, but a lot of his interceptions are on either crossing routes or slants where he gives the inside leverage and he almost lets the guy get a step and then uses his closing speed to make up for it coming across for the pick.
Both,
Um,
yeah, both him and Byron have amazing recovery speed and closing speed. Amazing. That's the best part about their game is their recovery. I just wish that Byron Jones could turn it into picks, but honestly, I don't care. If we don't hear his name and he locks down his guy and he erases somebody, that's awesome.
Let me ask you that last, just going off the top of my head, that last play of the game. What would your thoughts have been if they would have scored on that? On that?
You know what? You saw X turn the Jets on after
Yeah. He was not about to let his Pro Football Focus rating go down.
the ball got caught and X just seemed to kick in that he shifted gears and right
Yeah.
to make that tackle.
I thought he was just going to throw it out of bounds. I didn't even know he put it up there to risk it. But
If
I'm
he had
sure.
scored a touchdown, that just would have been the absolute kick in the butt right there, and everyone would have been. We just would have been totally torn. Everyone was already in a terrible mood from the Tua benching. I wish they had never done that. Even win or lose, it would have been worse if we had won off of Fitz coming in. So
It would have been worse for the locker room, I think. It would have been very, it's kind of just who. It's going to be more of a who wants who to play quarterback, like who does Devontae want to play quarterback? Who does Mike Gesicki want to play quarterback? And then once that quarterback comes in and they don't do well, it's going to be, okay, we'll put this other guy in. So the thing I always thought is, Brian Flores, Fitz, they all said this is Tua's team. This is not, a temporary thing. That would have been nice to see his first time failing, that those statements held true. But hey, you live and you move on. So we're on to the Jets. Now let me ask you something else.
Mm-hmm.
Miami Dolphins started this season at a 1-3 record, right? After the bye week, when Tua came in, we wanted to at least win 4 of the next 6, right? So I remember we played the Rams, the Cardinals. We won those games. The 2 games we were really okay with losing. So at this point, after this next the total 6-game stretch after the bye week, are you okay with being 8-4 if we beat the Jets and the Bengals?
Yeah, what does that mean? You've lost 1 game in the last 6? That's hard for any NFL team to do. Look at Tom Brady against the New Orleans Saints when he put up 3 points and the Saints put up 40. It's the NFL. I mean, you're gonna lose games and it's gonna happen. And Tua needs to learn. This team is so young. Everyone is under the age of 30, and I mean everyone is under the age of 30.
A lot of new players too.
Yeah, that isn't Ryan Fitzpatrick. This is totally new offensive line, completely new. I don't think there's any continuity on that line besides Jesse Davis, who's now on the COVID list. So you have totally new defensive line. People forget where we came from. We had Taco Charlton and Shaq Calhoun on our defensive and offensive lines last year. Yep. Where is Shaq Calhoun now? Probably with us watching the game on TV. So we've come for such a long way that 8-4 would be incredible at this point. I would still really hope that they could make the push. This is the type of team that can knock off a good team. I'm not worried about the Patriots. I think they could compete with the Raiders. I think they could compete with the Chiefs. They'll probably lose one of those games, but if they get to 10 wins, that's incredible.
Yeah, they got the Bills the last game of the year. So, all right. So let me ask you, future outlook. I'll kind of go down the schedule, kind of giving you a rundown. We play the Jets in New York next week.
Win.
We play the Bengals at home.
Win. Especially without Burrow. That's I was really looking forward. I'm going to be at that game, so I was really looking forward to seeing Burrow. But
yeah, I forgot. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Chiefs at home.
I'm going to give that a loss, but that's a game that they could surprise you. I really do think it could surprise you. That's a trap game for the Chiefs.
So in reality, in my opinion, the magic number is at least 10, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll have 8 wins, theoretically, if we end up winning the games we're supposed to against the Jets and the Bengals. That's 8 wins. So in reality, because we did lose that game against the Broncos, we need to win against either the Pats, the Raiders, the Chiefs, or the Bills. We need 2 of those 4 to hit 8.
The Patriots at home, that should be a winnable game. Now, you never know with Belichick, but that's a game the Dolphins have won historically. So yeah. I'm not that worried about that. I would like to get to 10. Really would like to get to 10. But
10, I have 10 as my magic number. As whether you make playoffs with 10 or not, if you don't hold the tiebreaker, I'm totally okay with a season like that.
Getting to 9 is still drastic improvement. I want everybody to remember that. If we get to 9, you can't sit there and say this team underperformed. Getting to 9 wins is overperforming for what was expected. They're far away. Wait until you see what happens after this offseason. I'm actually going to predict for this offseason that we're going to be extending people more than we're going to be signing new people. We've actually got a lot of contracts that are either coming up or contracts that I'd want to get a jump on. And moving into the free agency and the draft, they're a whole team away. Wait until they get 8 or 9 new guys that are the final pieces, and then see where they can be in terms of being competitive. Because getting 9 wins is, remember, we came from 5-11, and that was a tough 5-11. That was a roster that overperformed last year.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of people had us going 4-12, 5-11 this year before the season started. A lot of people I saw on TV, ESPN, NFL Network, all those guys, 5-11 was probably the average prediction. And in my head, I'm like, dude, did you see the roster we had last year? And we went 5-11. What makes you think we're gonna do the same this year? So 8 wins, 9 wins, preferably 9. Great improvement. I'd be okay with that.
Question for you. Are we overperforming by your metrics? As you, Andrew, do you sit there and say, compared to what I expected this season, are they under, over, or right where you expected them to be?
In all honesty, I would say underperforming. And
compared to what you expected? Prior to the season starting, before seeing any games?
Prior to the season started, I'd say overperforming. But when I started watching them at the beginning or after on this winning streak, it's almost like, we're winning, but how often are you going to rely on blocked punts, right?
I was about to bring that up. Yeah, it's
defensive touchdowns and special teams touchdowns. And those were a big piece in that winning streak, So in my eyes, it's like, yeah, we're killing these people by halftime. We're killing them. But what is the offense hasn't moved the ball really all season. Fitzpatrick had a few good games, but other than that, we really have been we're a bottom 5 offense.
For sure. They're
a bottom 5 offense.
Yeah, now that you mention all the defensive and special team stuff, we're very well coached on that side of the ball because Flo has a defensive and special teams background. He puts a huge emphasis on both of those things. I believe in this offense's capability. I'm fine with Chan Gailey. I don't have any complaints with. Sometimes I'm like, oof, but in terms of play calling. But as far as what he's been able to mask with what he's working with, you watch what would Gase do with this offense. This would be worse than the Jets trying to put together something. So I wouldn't be opposed to just getting a few extra pieces moving forward. And I think they could turn it around. They've got the quarterback. It's him struggling yesterday was not all on him. And we both know that.
I'm going to ask you a question with the question you asked me. So, I didn't get your answer, but I would like to point this out just step by step. Are the running backs underperforming or overperforming?
Overperforming for who they are.
As a whole running back group, as far as the rushing offense.
They're underperforming in terms of the whole group. In terms of individuals, we've got to go on a piece-by-piece basis. Jordan Howard was an absolute failure. Matt Breida, also in my eyes, was a failure. You got a 5th-round pick for this guy, and you think he's going to be the number 1. He's supposed to outperform 7th-round picks like Myles Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed and
Ahmed. I don't think. Ahmed. I'm not sure. But
yeah, it's Salvon Ahmed, I think, for Ahmed. But either way, people like that, people who are undrafted or 7th-round picks, Breida has no excuse. He's a veteran too. He had no excuse to be performing the way he is. He's underperforming, but Ahmed and Gaskin are overperforming from what I would say. We don't expect much out of them. But as a
group, the whole group, you would have to say, they're a terrible rushing offense.
And who could foresee that run blocking? I would never have guessed that you draft this O-line. And I have to say, besides them being rookies, Austin Jackson has been solid, at least besides the last game. Take last game out of it.
He was terrible against Denver. I think he had 9 pressures, I think I saw.
He was bad yesterday, but look at how they've performed to this point. Solomon Kinley, a 4th-round pick. When do you plug and start a 4th-round offensive lineman? Who else is a rookie? Robert Hunt, I think, has performed really well every time he's gone in at right tackle, as well as a rookie offensive lineman can. I don't think that's a position people just get plug and play unless you're, a 1st-round pick. And even then, Austin Jackson wasn't projected to be a 1st-round pick. Yeah. He was, people were saying he was the 6th or 7th tackle in the draft. So I think it's strange that they can pass block so well, but I guess they just don't have the athleticism because let's talk about Denver for 2 seconds. Those guards from Denver, the pulling plays, unstoppable for them. They were bulldozing. They would look like they were at the supermarket with shopping carts, just pushing the defensive line back. And that's something these guards aren't going to be able to do. These are 350-pound guys on our side. I don't foresee them, unless they lose a little weight. I don't think that pulling ability, maybe it can be taught. I'm not an offensive line expert, but I would like to get an offensive lineman who can move like that.
Yeah, I almost felt bad for Ogba because it seemed like every time they had a guard pulling around to double team him and chip him, and it's like, they kept running to his side, and we did miss Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, huge.
Um,
That's a more of a miss than people would
and
think.
I would have thought. My dad asked me before the game, "We're gonna miss Christian Wilkins." Nah, we'll be all right. Well, that came back to bite me. But yeah, I mean, and then you can move on to the wide receiver core. They're underperforming as a whole.
Absolutely.
Preston Williams torn ACL or whatever happened to him. I guess he's done for the year. What hurt his ankle or something, hamstring. Yeah, he's done for the year. Albert Wilson opted out. He's on the COVID list. Boy, I didn't think we'd miss him, but we could use him right now. Jakeem Grant, who's actually done a pretty good job. I give Jakeem Grant credit for how he's came into his role, whether it's special teams, catching the football. I haven't seen him do too many plays where I'm like, Lord, Jakeem, what are you doing? Like I have in the past.
It used to be where he would be getting a reception or a punt. You have to hold your breath because you.
Oh, I still do. It's still burnt in my memory. I still do.
He still bobbles them too. Last game he bobbled one.
He bobbled it and went out of bounds. And I was just like, yeah, that's Jakeem.
Hey, you know what? As someone who's not so big myself, I understand what it's like to not have huge hands. I think that's really part of it. These great receivers have humongous hands. Dude's got small hands because he's a small guy. But it can't be denied that Tua missed him a couple times where he was
Absolutely.
10 feet of separation on his
And
DB.
I think, honestly, I don't know if that has to do with the altitude or anything. I sure as hell never seen Tua miss that many deep balls in my life. So I don't know.
It was bad. It was bad conditions. They were underprepared. Probably came in a little bit cocky. They got out coached, and they don't always get out coached. They got outplayed. They got out coached, and that won't happen often with this team. I'm confident that won't happen often. I don't think they're going to get out coached against the Jets. They better not get out coached against the Jets.
Yep, and that's a perfect transition to what we're about to finish this up with. So the New York Jets, how are they going to beat them? What do they need to do to beat the Jets?
Put pressure on. Is Flacco still in? Are we at Darnold?
I think it looks like it's still going to be Flacco. It's only Monday, so it's early in the week. We won't know, but either one.
Put pressure on Flacco, right? Just get back to your zero blitzes. Hope that the special teams and defense can step up and tell Tua that he needs to do better because, he has to for them to win. It's not a tough opponent, but I've thought about this. They've been making pushes. They almost only lost their last game within less than a touchdown, and they've been getting close. I'm not saying they're going to win, but once Gase relinquished the play calling on the offense, they're starting to put up 25, 30 points a game. I wish that Gase would take over play calling duties again, just so that it'd be a closer game. But I don't think this Jets team is going to go 0-16. I think they're going to win a game. So, and I hope it's not against us. But it's in the NFL, it's hard to go 16-0, and it's hard to go 0-16.
Absolutely. So I'll go off that. I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is the battle in the trenches. The Jets are not a good team, but it always seems like the Jets and the Bills end up beating us up front. Right? Between them running the ball and them stopping our run game. I know our run game is already lackluster as is, but I'm really hoping Tua doesn't get banged up 6 times and a half. I'm hoping. Just my personal goals for Tua, I'm hoping he hits 250 yards. And I know that might be hard because we're playing the Jets, and who knows what our defense will do, but it's a must-win. We'll just leave it there. It's after losing that Broncos game, it's a must-win.
It's a must-win. I hope it's not going to be too cold. My concern, too, I know this is a silly concern, but Tua is from Hawaii and has no experience playing in the cold. He played at Alabama. I really don't think that he's played in a game that's colder than 40 degrees. So I'm, as us being from Florida, we know what it's like to not be used to the cold. I hope that doesn't affect how he throws, and he just looked like a rookie yesterday, and he's got to do better. He's got to use his legs a little more. There were times where I'm like, Tua, just run. Just get out of there. If it breaks down and you don't see anything, just pick up 5 yards and slide. Like, we're not going to fault him if he does that. And you saw Fitz trying to do those running plays. And
they called a QB draw for Fitz. I had never seen them call a QB draw for Tua.
I don't want them to call QB power.
They called a QB draw for Fitz, and he got, 6 or 7 yards?
Yeah, but I don't want. Look at Fitz going head first, and
then he got the helmet to helmet. Yeah,
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Tua getting wrecked like that. He's small, so. But whatever, he's got the accuracy.
I'd be happy if Tua can replicate that Cardinals game. That was a great game. I don't know what the exact difference was between what the Cardinals had schemed up versus what the Broncos did, or honestly, the Rams either, because the Cardinals game, if we're being real, is really the only game where I saw Tua have some superstar flashes. That's really the only game I've seen.
He can do it. It's in him. I think.
I
I think
agree.
it's in him.
I agree. Well, I'm all done. Do you got anything else to close this up?
No, I think this was good, especially for a first time. Hopefully, we can do this again. I think that we had a lot of good points, and neither one of us are worried about anything. I'm not worried about the season. I think you were going to lose one game. What is the difference if you lost this game or if you
We weren't
lost the
winning 8 in a
Cardinals game?
row. You
Yeah.
weren't. You weren't
You weren't going
really.
to win 8 in a row, and if you lost this game or you lost the Rams game or you lost the Cardinals game, doesn't matter. It was still a loss. It was going to come. You expected to lose one of those two games, and you won both. So you're riding above the expectations now. Let's hope that they carry it on, and I think they will. Everything that I've seen so far says the coaching staff will
Yep.
mask the problems of this deficient roster, and then I am confident moving forward that they will fix the roster as well.
Yep, they needed that loss. We have a bunch of. I think we have a bunch of dogs on that team, and I'm sure they're just as pissed off as all the fans right now. So I have no worries. I'll be. Everyone will forget about that game if we just blow the Jets out. Nobody will have a worry.
Yeah,
Nobody. If
yeah,
we just come
absolutely.
out there and do our job. So, anyways, I'm all done here. Hey, if you guys stuck with us, thank you. We really enjoy this. We're not doing this for money or anything. We're just doing this for our free time and because we're diehard Dolphins fans. Um, Other than that, I will have it on my YouTube page. Randy will have it on his Twitter as well as my Twitter. And I would love and appreciate all the follows and likes and everything you guys could do to help us out.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, guys, fins up.
Fins up.